This girl had just finished work and was planning to go to a bar to dance with her colleagues, but as soon as she got in the car, her colleagues criticized her for dressing too rustic. So as soon as they arrived at the bar, they joined forces to make the girl beautiful. But before Ha-jin could finish her makeup, she was informed of the bad news that the blind date she had arranged for her boss had come to the wrong restaurant. Ha-jin hurriedly called her boss, but her boss's phone was in the car. Meanwhile, the person her boss will meet in blind date saw another attractive guy in the restaurant, so that person no longer wanted to go on a blind date with Ha-jin's boss. Ha-jin, who had finished her makeup, could only run to the restaurant herself to apologize to her boss. However, her boss had prosopagnosia, so he didn't recognize her. Moreover, Ha-jin had changed out of the red coat she wore every day. She also took off her sunglasses, and her usual flat shoes had been changed to high heels. This made the boss Minjun unable to recognize his employee. Normally, Ha-jin served Minjun, but today, seeing him pull out her chair and prepare some delicious food, Ha-jin suddenly had a selfish thought. Ha-jin also wanted to feel how the boss treated other girls differently from her, so she pretended to be the boss's blind date. Because Ha-jin had worked as Veronica's secretary before, Ha-jin could easily impersonate her. Originally, Minjun didn't want to go against his mother's wishes, so he came. Minjun had long heard that Veronica was known to be rude and difficult to please, so he kept reminding himself to be polite. Perhaps Ha-jin wanted revenge, so she kept making things difficult for Minjun during the meal. But not only was he not angry, he calmly solved each difficult problem. Ha-jin didn't believe that she couldn't do anything to Minjun, so she intentionally got sauce on her hand and asked him to wipe it off. Ha-jin didn't expect Minjun to have such a gentle expression. This made her feel a little embarrassed. Later, Ha-jin tasted the peanut sauce in the dish. She knew that Minjun was allergic to peanuts, so she immediately ran to him and patted him on the back. Minjun had to spit out the piece of beef he had just put in his mouth. This really scared Ha-jin. At this moment, Ha-jin's professional habits were activated again. She worriedly checked to see if he had a rash. Because of that, she completely forgot she was acting as the young lady. Ha-jin washed her hands and scolded herself for being unprofessional. How could a rich young lady do such a thing? So she decided to stop here. After all, she had eaten expensive food and she had also enjoyed his service. She was afraid that if she continued to pretend, her identity would be revealed. After Ha-jin went out, Minjun asked her how she knew he was allergic to peanuts. Ha-jin suddenly thought of the reason that his secretary told her. Later, Ha-jin took her bag back from Minjun. She made an excuse saying that she had something to do, so she had to go back first. Unexpectedly, Minjun said that he would wait for the driver with her. Ha-jin said that her driver had asked for leave these past few days. Coincidentally, she had eaten a little too much tonight, so she wanted to go for a walk. Unexpectedly, Minjun said that he would go for a walk with her. This scene of falling flowers seemed to also support Ha-jin's short moment of happiness. Even though neither of them said anything, it was still very romantic. However, it didn't last long before it rained. Ha-jin's professional habits were activated again. She rushed out as a natural reflex. Minjun felt very strange. Why did she let herself get wet and hold an umbrella for him? Ha-jin remembered the fact that every time it rained, she would immediately hold an umbrella for him. She didn't care if she got wet or not. This rain also helped the two of them to be under the same umbrella. The atmosphere was a bit awkward at the moment. Minjun was suddenly very curious about this girl because she was completely different from what he had imagined. Ha-jin also felt Minjun's special gaze, so she quickly pushed his hand away. Coincidentally, a taxi passed by at this time, so Ha-jin quickly took a taxi instead of letting Minjun see her off. She quickly got into the car. Looking at Ha-jin walking away, the corners of Minjun's mouth couldn't help but rise. Early the next morning, Ha-jin stood in front of the company door for a long time but didn't dare to go in. She kept mentally preparing herself. She had never been so afraid to enter the company like this. She walked into her boss's office while reassuring herself. Ha-jin hoped that she could forget everything that happened last night. But what had happened? How could she just say forget it? Actually, Ha-jin was worried about how to explain that lie later. Minjun looked at Ha-jin's confused state and unconsciously laughed. He wanted to see what was wrong with his secretary so early in the morning. Ha-jin had never been afraid of seeing her boss like today, so she wanted to find a reason to leave. Now, no matter how much work Minjun gave her, it was fine. As long as she was out of his sight, she was safe. So when Minjun told Ha-jin to go change the light bulb, she obediently followed. Minjun thought that Ha-jin didn't want to see his face, but right now, he could only see her face clearly, so he begged her not to hate him so much. Minjun suddenly approached, making Ha-jin even more nervous. She was afraid that what happened last night would be revealed. Luckily, someone called at this time. Minjun used to be able to remember people's faces clearly, even after only seeing them once, but recently, he was attacked by a stranger. While running away, he suffered a head injury, so now when he looks at someone's face, the image that appears in his eyes is blurred. Ha-jin was almost fired by Minjun before. It turned out that he had been betrayed by a former secretary. After that, he only signed a one-year contract with new secretaries. When the contract act ended, someone else would replace them. But after the injury, Minjun only remembered Ha-jin's face, so he begged her to continue working for him. Although Ha-jin was very angry, she had no reason to refuse. She had no parents, only an older brother with vision problems. She also had a younger sister who was studying and needed to be taken care of. The salary Minjun paid her was very good. Besides, Ha-jin had been by Minjun's side for a long time. Moreover, she wore a red coat every day, and her hairstyle had never changed, so her face was engraved in Minjun's mind like a seal. Later, Minjun also tried to ask Ha-jin to change her clothes. Sure enough, he couldn't see her face clearly anymore. That's why Minjun didn't realize that his blind date was Ha-jin last night. Ha-jin also made it clear to Veronica that she was the one who went on a blind date with Minjun last night. Ha-jin also told both sides' parents that the two had met. In fact, early this morning, the parents of both sides had started to respond to each other. Minjun's evaluation of Veronica was very honest. This evaluation surprised Veronica's mother. No one had ever evaluated her daughter like that before. She also didn't expect that Veronica was currently infatuated with another guy. That person was Minjun's colleague. The two mothers didn't know the truth, so they were still very happy because their two children had feelings for each other. Ha-jin thought that her blind date with her boss had ended that night. Unexpectedly, her boss remembered her forever. Because Ha-jin was in a hurry to leave, she left the umbrella for Minjun. Today, Minjun was feeling depressed when he accidentally saw the umbrella, so he opened the umbrella and remembered the scene of him and Veronica walking in the rain. His face was sad just now, but now it immediately broke into a sweet smile. The thought of wanting to meet Veronica became more and more intense, so Minjun called Ha-jin to ask for Veronica's phone number. Ha-jin didn't want to pretend to be Veronica anymore, so she made up an excuse that Veronica used 10 phones at the same time, so everyone contacted her through her personal secretary. Unexpectedly, Minjun told Ha-jin to contact that personal secretary. Ha-jin was worried that Minjun would really look for Veronica through the secretary, so she could only read out a phone number in desperation. Coincidentally, a few days ago, Ha-jin had just given her younger sister a new phone to study abroad. Ha-jin had also made a new phone number for her younger sister, and the old phone was in her hands. As long as she didn't pick up the phone, it would be fine. Sure enough, not long after, Minjun called that number. Afraid that Minjun would call back, Ha-jin planned to send him a text message telling him that it was inconvenient for her to pick up the phone. But as soon as she picked up text message, the phone rang again. She even accidentally pressed the answer button. Ha-jin had no choice but to imitate Veronica's way of speaking. Minjun asked her to meet tonight so he could return her umbrella. Ha-jin could only find an excuse to refuse. She said that her umbrellas were all disposable, so he didn't need to return them. Minjun thought that even if she threw away her things, she would have to throw them away herself. In the end, Minjun made an appointment to meet her at the promenade. That night, Ha-jin hurriedly got ready after returning home. She tried to recreate the makeup style that day, and her clothes were chosen as close to Veronica's style as possible. Ha-jin anxiously went to the meeting place that night. She kept convincing herself that she shouldn't be nervous. She just needed to wait until she got the umbrella and leave right away. They wouldn't see each other again anyway. At this time, Minjun was already waiting for her there. Ha-jin took a deep breath and walked towards him. After greeting him, Ha-jin asked Minjun about the umbrella. Unexpectedly, Minjun said he didn't bring it and he didn't plan to bring it. This left Ha-jin at a loss for words. She asked him why he wanted to meet her. It turned out that the umbrella was just his excuse. He also frankly said that after that blind date, he often thought of her. Whenever he thought of her, his heart would beat fast, so he asked her to meet him. Ha-jin didn't expect Minjun to say that. She tried to control her emotions. Then she pretended to be angry and left. At this time, Minjun received a call from his best friend. Daeju said that someone posted an article online about Minjun beating someone. Their conversation was also heard by Ha-jin, so she immediately stopped and took out her phone to check. The person who wrote the article said that he witnessed everything with his own eyes, but his description was not true. Minjun had already finished work that night, but when he got downstairs, Minjun discovered that he had forgotten his car keys in the office. When he returned to the office, he found someone secretly rummaging through things inside. Coincidentally, the lights in the office were broken, and Minjun had prosopagnosia, so he couldn't see the other person's face clearly. But the way that person dressed and his figure made Minjun feel very familiar. His intuition told Minjun that this person was the one who had tried to kill him before. Later, the two fought. While Minjun was grabbing a nearby trophy to hit the other person, Ha-jin suddenly appeared and stopped him. In fact, the other person was the one who almost killed Minjun. It was just that Minjun later suffered from prosopagnosia, so he didn't recognize this guy. This guy was also recommended as Minjun's personal driver. Minjun asked him why he was here. Jung-soo said that he wanted to help fix the broken light in the office. This scene was coincidentally seen by the security guard. Because Ha-jin was also there at that time, she knew the whole truth. As a secretary who often helped Minjun handle handle the aftermath. Ha-jin's first reaction was to think of a way to prevent the bad news from spreading. As soon as she turned around, she saw Min-jun still standing there, not knowing what to do. Although Ha-jin was now assuming Veronica's identity, her occupational disease made her unable to resist and returned to propose a solution to him. Later, they rang the doorbell but were told that the security guard had gone to attend the funeral. He was not back yet, so the two of them could only wait outside the door. Min-jun felt very embarrassed for making Ha-jin sit here and wait with him. Ha-jin said that as soon as I left, he would definitely call the secretary because most bosses were like that. They had something to do and would look for the secretary first. Unexpectedly, Min-jun said that he had no intention of calling the secretary. Later, Min-jun noticed that Ha-jin was a bit cold, so he told her to lean against him to keep warm. Ha-jin refused without hesitation, so Min-jun sat close to Ha-jin again. He said that penguins in the Antarctic all kept warm that way. Min-jun said that just warming up her fingers would help her blood circulate better, which would make her body warmer. He also kindly asked if she felt better now. This ambiguous action made Ha-jin shyly withdraw her hand. After a while, she stood up to relieve the awkward atmosphere. At this time, the security guard also returned. Ha-jin was afraid that he would recognize her as Min-jun's secretary, so she said that she would go home first, leaving Min-jun to talk to him alone. After a while, Min-jun didn't have to spend too much effort to get the security guard to agree to delete posts. He said that he had just posted the post when he received news of a relative's death. Indeed, he shouldn't do anything against his conscience. This made Min-jun suspect that the person who asked the security guard to post the post was his uncle. Because the uncle had always wanted to kick Min-jun out of the board of directors, he liked to create all kinds of bad rumors to damage Min-jun's reputation. Min-jun's mother didn't know anything about this. She only knew that her son looked very tired after coming home last night. She thought it was because her son dated Veronica too often. Veronica's mother, on the other end of the line, was very happy to hear that. She also wanted to hear more stories from her daughter. As a result, as soon as she entered the room, she saw Veronica asking to tie her hands together. Veronica said that she couldn't control herself from calling that guy right now. Veronica's mother didn't expect Min-jun to be so good at controlling women's hearts. Seeing her daughter's crazy appearance, she quickly told Min-jun's mother the good news. However, the guy who made Veronica restless wasn't Min-jun. It was Min-jun's longtime best friend named Dae-ju. There was still a very important reason why Min-jun couldn't sleep. Today was his first board meeting since he got prosopagnosia. In order to recognize the members of the board, Min-jun tried to remember their appearance and height before the meeting. If Min-jun wanted to be elected as chairman of the board in the future, he had to try to gain their favor. But Min-jun's uncle still wanted to kick him out of the board. Of course, the people on Min-jun's uncle's side didn't understand the situation. They also said that they only wanted to protect the company's image, so they wanted Min-jun to take the initiative to withdraw from the board. Of course, Min-jun wouldn't stay silent and suffer. Both sides were stubborn in their opinions, so in the end, they decided to raise their hands to vote. In the end, only 5 votes agreed to Min-jun's decision to leave the board. At this time, Dae-ju had not voted yet. Min-jun thought he had won for sure because Dae-ju was his childhood friend. Dae-ju had always been on Min-jun's side. Unexpectedly, Dae-ju also voted in favor. This result was beyond Min-jun's expectations. After that incident, Dae-ju also explained to Min-jun he did that for the best of Min-jun. After today's incident, Min-jun's mother scolded him again. She said he shouldn't blindly trust the people around him. 3 years ago, when the company elected the chairman of the board of directors, it was because of Min-jun's medical records that they said they couldn't hand the company over to someone who had had brain surgery like him. So Min-jun was eliminated, even though he had a very high chance of winning. And the person who secretly took Min-jun's medical records at that time was the female secretary he trusted very much. It was also after that he made a rule to only sign a 1-year contract with the secretary. In order to not let him repeat the mistake, Min-jun's mother suggested firing Dae-ju, the secretary and driver, before the meeting. Just when Min-jun was at a loss for words, he received a text message from Ha-jin. Tonight, Ha-jin went out with some colleagues. At the dinner table, she heard them talking about what happened at the board meeting today. Before she had even finished eating, she ran straight to see Min-jun. She told him not to take the initiative to withdraw from the board. Min-jun thought that she was worried that he would affect her work, so he comforted her that even if he withdrew, she would not be affected and she did not need to worry about the employment contract. Ha-jin said that she did not come to him because she was worried about this. She said that when he let go of his pride and begged her to work, he was very handsome. Or, when he said he would try to overcome his prosopagnosia, he was also very handsome. Or when he stayed up all night to memorize everyone's height and hairstyle, he was also very handsome in her eyes. When he was happy, she would be happy with him. When he was sad, she would be depressed. So she begged him not to give up. He must get to the position of chairman of the board of directors. She would also do her best to help him. Ha-jin's words gave gave Min-jun great confidence. At this time, Min-jun had made his decision. The next day, the board members were all waiting for Min-jun to take the initiative to withdraw. How could a young person like him fight against these scheming people? Even his mother had no hope. Seeing that the plan was about to succeed, Min-jun's uncle also revealed a satisfied smile. Min-jun said thank you to his uncle for teaching him for the past 3 years, so he shouldn't give up easily. Moreover, he was still this young. Moreover, he now had reliable support to sit in the position of chairman of the board, so he would persevere in this position. After saying that, Min-jun immediately returned to the office because Ha-jin was still nervously waiting for him. Ha-jin felt that the office was not very safe. It seemed like someone was following them recently, so the first thing they had to do was change offices. So Ha-jin and Min-jun went to the hotel to work for the next 2 weeks. Min-jun had nothing to do, so he suddenly thought of Veronica. Min-jun thought that her business was so big and her experience was so rich, so he wondered what she would do if she were in this situation. Min-jun didn't know that Veronica, who was on a date with him that day, was actually sitting right next to him. Ha-jin carefully asked Min-jun what he liked about Veronica. Min-jun clearly confessed to Veronica. But when Ha-jin asked about this, Min-jun didn't know what to say. He wondered how he could like someone he had just met for the first time. Ha-jin said that she arranged many dates for him, but this was the first time she saw him ask for her phone number. Min-jun explained that Veronica was richer than him, and her family background was better than his. She was also more capable than him, so wasn't it normal for him to want her phone number? Because of the prosopagnosia, Min-jun didn't know what Veronica looked like, so Min-jun asked Ha-jin to describe her to him. Ha-jin looked at herself in the mirror and began to describe. Ha-jin said that her eyes were very normal, her nose seemed normal, and only her lips were a bit prettier than others. But even so, she was still very beautiful, because she had a coat that others didn't have. That coat was bought for her by her parents, and the coat was called confidence. Although it couldn't be seen with the naked eye, anyone could feel it. Because of that coat, she was very confident and beautiful. After chatting for a while, Min-jun somehow ran from the bedroom to the living room. He even fell asleep on the sofa. Ha-jin was afraid that Min-jun would have a stiff neck from sleeping like that, so she moved him a little. When Min-jun woke up, he thought he was dreaming. Min-jun looked at Ha-jin without the red coat as Veronica. Min-jun couldn't believe it and hugged Ha-jin's face to see clearly. Min-jun suddenly realized that he was talking so fluently in his dream. He woke up and realized that this wasn't a dream. Ha-jin scolded him for being naive. How could he start dreaming right after falling asleep? Min-jun said that he suddenly saw Ha-jin as Veronica. When Ha-jin almost misunderstood what Min-jun meant, he explained to her that he meant he would go home to sleep and she would stay here. Min-jun knew that this was the first time Ha-jin had stayed at a 6-star hotel, so he took the opportunity to work here for 2 weeks and wanted to let her experience it. Min-jun was afraid that Ha-jin would be shy, so he deliberately said that compared to someone who often stayed in hotels like him, she would feel more satisfied staying there. If we talk from an economic perspective, wouldn't the money he spent be more worthwhile? Actually, Min-jun realized Ha-jin's lack of confidence. So later, Min-jun pretended to put a coat on Ha-jin that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. After sending Min-jun off, Ha-jin carefully toured this room. Min-jun went home to sleep at night. In the morning, Min-jun would also stay at the hotel with Ha-jin. If he was tired from work, he would go swimming for a while to relieve stress. As for Ha-jin, she spent most of her time in her room looking at documents. It's just that she has a bad habit of suddenly appearing in front of Min-jun. Whenever she thinks of something interesting, she always suddenly appears, startling Min-jun. It was also the first time Ha-jin saw Min-jun wearing so little. This made her feel embarrassed. In order to be able to communicate normally with Min-jun, Ha-jin put a bathrobe on him to cover him up. It can be seen that Min-jun is sometimes helpless with his secretary, but Ha-jin is really dedicated to her work. She searched for documents all night long, so much so that she had dark circles under her eyes and her complexion became haggard. Ha-jin almost startled Dae-ju. Dae-ju said that Min-jun was oppressing her so much that she looked so lifeless. This made Min-jun both heartbroken and guilty. Min-jun started to pack Ha-jin's luggage himself. He also gave her some extra food to take home. Min-jun also told Ha-jin to use the hotel's special car to go home. Seeing Min-jun's reluctant expression, as if he couldn't bear to let his secretary leave, Dae-ju felt sure that his friend liked her. Min-jun argued that he was just showing concern for the secretary who had devoted himself to him. He was also just sympathizing with the first girl who shared a hotel room with him. He also said that he was a kind and benevolent person. After all, the person Min-jun liked was someone else. But Min-jun didn't know that the secretary he had just sent away was the same person as the girl he was thinking about. Because tomorrow was the shareholders meeting, perhaps because of the stress, Min-jun couldn't sleep. Min-jun didn't feel sleepy at all, so he went to the swimming pool without thinking. At this time, Min-jun suddenly wanted to hear Ha-jin's voice, so he took out his phone and called her. The two of them talked until almost morning. Ha-jin said that after the shareholders meeting ended, she would turn off her computer and go to rest. Min-jun was also starting to feel sleepy while listening to her. After 2 weeks of preparation, the shareholders meeting finally arrived. This was also the first time Min-jun attended the shareholders meeting after suffering from prosopagnosia. This meeting was also about whether he could continue to stay on the board of directors, so he couldn't help but feel nervous. It was just that Ha-jin was even more nervous than Min-jun. Her hand that wanted to apply some hairspray on him was shaking. Veronica had already promised Dae-ju that she would stand by Min-jun. At the same time, she had signed a petition against Min-jun's withdrawal from the board of directors, but suddenly she said that she would also be there today. This made Dae-ju afraid that she would suddenly change her mind. Ha-jin was even more afraid that Veronica would appear. At this moment, the real and fake Veronicas appeared at the same time. Ha-jin, being a fake, was very panicked. Ha-jin was afraid that Veronica would find out that she had lied to him. Veronica came to participate this time as a shareholder. How could such an exciting event be without her? Moreover, Ha-jin had even begged Veronica to come back. This made someone with a rebellious personality like Veronica want to stay even more. This shareholders meeting brought up a very important topic, the purpose of which was to express their stance on whether they would remove Min-jun from his position because he had beaten someone. Of course, they would first let Min-jun respond to this. This was the first time Min-jun had spoken in such a situation since he had suffered from prosopagnosia, so he couldn't help but feel nervous. The encouraging note that Ha-jin had pasted on the file also helped Min-jun relieve some of his tension. Then, Min-jun raised his head to look at Ha-jin, who was sitting, because that was the only face he could recognize. Seeing that Min-jun was not speaking for a long time, the shareholders began to lose patience and urged him. He could only gather his emotions and start his narration. First of all, he apologized to everyone for his past actions. However, he had made this mistake because of a misunderstanding, but more or less, he had caused a negative impact on the company's image, so he accepted the corresponding punishment. Next was when Ha-jin cooperated with Min-jun. Based on the script they had rehearsed, Ha-jin would deliberately cause trouble. While everyone was still wondering why Ha-jin, Min-jun's secretary, would betray his boss, Veronica acted as if she was watching a good show. Next, Min-jun turned to the board members present and asked if they also thought that only illegal acts would damage the company's image. These board members themselves were more or less involved. Of course, they were speechless for a long time. Min-jun also conveniently announced all the bad news about the board members that he had collected. This included chat logs with other people, videos of a certain board member bullying others, and videos of drunkenness causing trouble that the media spent a lot of money to delete. If these things were revealed, they would all attract public attention. Coincidentally, the main characters were the board members who were enthusiastically demanding Min-jun's removal. Next, he summarized and sincerely apologized to the shareholders present. Because the board members had repeatedly damaged the company's image, they had never apologized. Next, he made it clear that he was not doing this to declare war on the board members, but he just wanted to warn everyone and hoped that the shareholders would give him another chance. His punishment would be to increase the value of the company's stock. He had to work harder to fill the pockets of the shareholders sitting here. Min-jun's statement was extremely successful. Later, Min-jun took Ha-jin to the beach, so she was able to satisfy her wish to enjoy the sea breeze and eat clams. It was just that a pampered young master like him still gave the hard work to his secretary. This also made Ha-jin scold Min-jun. She said that he seemed to have misunderstood her. She came here to enjoy herself, not to serve the boss like him. Min-jun smiled indulgently when she heard her mumbling reproaches. He quickly poured his little secretary a glass of wine to calm her anger. They had been out for a while, so the voting results were probably out by now. Ha-jin was still worried. After eating, Ha-jin asked Min-jun if there was something else he had said that was worth celebrating. Min-jun was about to tell Ha-jin when she received a call from Dae-ju. Ha-jin hurriedly told Min-jun to pick up the phone. At this time, Min-jun's heart was also beating very fast. He changed the subject and asked her to guess whether the bird on the other side was a seagull or a goose. Ha-jin told him to stop messing around. When she knew that the voting results were all in agreement, Ha-jin got excited. Ha-jin couldn't help but hug Min-jun. After reacting, she felt a bit rude. She quickly regained a safe distance. Just when Ha-jin was feeling embarrassed, Min-jun hugged her. Then he said he had a gift to give her, so he told her to go to the trunk to check. Ha-jin walked while looking forward to it, but the result made her extremely disappointed. There was nothing inside except a letter. After opening it, Ha-jin discovered that it was a contract. Min-jun looked at Ha-jin's questioning face and told her frankly that because 3 years ago he was betrayed by his most trusted secretary, he was determined not to trust the secretary anymore. Before, he fired her and oppressed her, not because he hated her, but because he hated that secretary. But now he understood that the one who betrayed him was his old secretary, not Ha-jin, so he decided to sign a new contract with her. Originally, Min-jun planned to end the contract with Ha-jin after he was cured, but now he changed the contract a bit. The time to end the contract would be decided by Ha-jin. When Min-jun saw Ha-jin crying, he thought she was so happy that she cried. But in fact, she was feeling guilty because she had deceived him. At this time, Min-jun received a call from his mother. She told him that she would have dinner with Veronica and mother tonight, so she told him to come over too. Ha-jin also heard the content of the conversation between the two. Ha-jin didn't want her lie to be exposed, so she tried her best to keep Min-jun. But he was still stubborn and wanted to go there because the person waiting for him there was the person he liked. Ha-jin didn't want to go through the difficult scene of being exposed right away, so she decided not to go back with him. She made an excuse that she wanted to stay at the beach for a while. After saying that, Ha-jin said goodbye to Min-jun with a complicated mood. Although Min-jun was in a hurry to meet Veronica, he kept nagging Ha-jin that he didn't understand why she didn't go back with him. Later, Ha-jin came to the beach. She imagined that her mother was still alive. She still complained about her troubles to her mother like before. After dark, Ha-jin went to spend the night in the house she used to live in. She even mocked herself that she had only been in the 6-star hotel for 2 weeks and had almost forgotten this place. This small room was where she should be. Later, Ha-jin opened the contract that Min-jun gave her. The contract's expiration date was up to Party B to decide. If it were before, she would definitely be happy, but now that she saw these words, she didn't know what to do. She guessed that Min-jun had already arrived at the restaurant, so he probably knew the whole truth. Ha-jin just fell asleep like that. When she woke up, it was already the next morning. Ha-jin immediately picked up her phone, but didn't find any messages. Before she could wonder, her employee's intuition helped her realize that she was late for work, so she hurriedly ran to the company. Ha-jin entered Min-jun's office in a state of anxiety. She saw his serious appearance and guessed that he definitely knew the truth. But in fact, when Min-jun went to the restaurant last night, Veronica had already left because she had something to do. Min-jun didn't see her. His mother told him not to be sad. Veronica said she would contact him soon. Sure enough, Min-jun received a call telling him to come to the bar. However, the person who made the appointment with Min-jun wasn't Veronica, but Dr. Gusok-chan. Ha-jin really wanted to know if Min-jun had finally met Veronica, but he kept beating around the bush. Later, Min-jun went to the hospital to see the doctor. Yesterday, Min-jun told the doctor that he could temporarily see people's faces clearly. Dr. Gu guessed that it was probably due to high blood pressure, but it would quickly return to normal, so it was impossible to cure his prosopagnosia because of that. Min-jun didn't care. Even if it was just a temporary fix, he wanted Dr. Gu to prepare a bag containing the tools used to increase blood pressure for him. Min-jun opened it and found a bunch of strange things inside, including compression stockings. Dr. Gu also gave Min-jun a blood pressure monitor, so he could remember where and when his blood pressure went up. Min-jun then returned to the office and saw Ha-jin's contract on the table. He thought she had already signed it, but when he opened it, he only saw the word sorry. The good mood from earlier immediately disappeared. Min-jun asked Ha-jin if she wasn't going to sign the contract with him again. Ha-jin really wanted to tell him the truth, but she couldn't say it. Min-jun thought she really hated him, so he said that if she wanted to go, he wouldn't force her. Later, he tore up the contract. That night, Min-jun received a text message from his blind date. She asked him to meet her tomorrow. In order to see her face clearly, Min-jun reluctantly put on those stockings in a hurry, so the cleaning lady misunderstood him as a pervert. Ha-jin saw this scene and hurriedly took off her coat to cover Min-jun. Then she hurriedly pulled him into the office. Ha-jin shyly reminded him that if this was his hobby, he should wear it at home. Min-jun had never worn this before, so it was difficult to put it on. Now he wanted to take it off, which was also a problem. Seeing Min-jun's struggling appearance, Ha-jin said that didn't he usually help women take it off? Min-jun looked really unfamiliar. Ha-jin could only guide Min-jun. She told him that he couldn't pull it off from his feet, but had to pull it down from his waist. Ha-jin stood by and watched worriedly. She saw scissors on the table, so she helped him cut the socks in half. Min-jun also noticed that Ha-jin accidentally cut her hand while helping him, so he decided to help her put on a band-aid. But the driver suddenly braked, causing Min-jun to put on the band-aid crookedly. But Ha-jin said it was okay because it was just a small wound. This band-aid was also for Min-jun to recognize Ha-jin later. The reason Ha-jin took the initiative to use Veronica's identity to meet Min-jun was because the real Veronica had been urged to get married by her mother. Veronica's mother even ordered a hanbok to wear in advance. Veronica found out that this matter had become big. Veronica hurriedly ran to Ha-jin's house to ask Ha-jin to use her identity to break up with Min-jun. Because the person Veronica liked was Min-jun's best friend, she didn't care what Ha-jin would do to end this lie. In short, Ha-jin had to quickly break up with Min-jun, otherwise her mother would probably print invitations next week. Ha-jin wanted to directly send a text message to break up with Min-jun. Later, she felt that it was not appropriate. After thinking for a whole day, she finally decided to say it clearly in front of him. Today there was an important date, but Min-jun still insisted on taking Ha-jin home. He wanted to advise her to reconsider signing the contract with him. However, before they could get home, it started to rain. Ha-jin was about to find an umbrella when Min-jun pulled her aside to avoid the rain. The two of them suddenly got close to each other, and the sound of the rain made the atmosphere gloomy. Immediately after that, a magical scene happened. Min-jun could clearly see Ha-jin even though she wasn't wearing a red coat. At this moment, the world seemed to be silent. He could only hear his heart beating very fast. That night, when he saw Veronica appear, Min-jun was both nervous and excited. He really hoped that he could see Veronica as clearly as he saw Ha-jin. The result made him extremely disappointed. Moreover, his blood pressure and heart rate were also normal, so this time he still didn't realize that Veronica and Ha-jin were actually the same person. Min-jun still thought that the way he opened his eyes was wrong, so he quickly pulled Ha-jin back. Ha-jin asked Min-jun what he was doing, and only then did he realize that he was a bit rude. Because Veronica was really being urged to get married, Ha-jin was asked by her to explain things to Min-jun. Min-jun still had no way to let go like that. It was rare for Min-jun to be moved by a girl, so he begged Veronica to be his girlfriend for 12 hours. He wanted to take advantage of the last chance. After 12 hours of crying, Ha-jin was still determined to break up so he would let go comfortably. Min-jun's sincere eyes and pleading tone finally made Ha-jin soften. When she went to the bathroom, he hurriedly asked Dr. Gu for help. When Min-jun turned around to look at Ha-jin, he suddenly dismissed that thought. Instead of insisting on seeing her face clearly, he would rather cherish these 12 hours well. During the remaining time, he had to love her well so that she could feel his sincerity. The moment their eyes met, Ha-jin seemed to remember the first time she pretended to be Veronica to meet him. She wanted to be a little more selfish. She would no longer be his secretary, but his girl. Although it was only short, it could still leave her with a good memory. Thus, this 12-hour countdown lover relationship began. When both of them had their own thoughts, Ha-jin accidentally stroked her hair, causing Min-jun to discover the band-aid on her hand. Ha-jin was afraid of being discovered, so she quickly withdrew her hand. She said that there were many band-aids like this. Min-jun still felt that it was too coincidental. Even the wound and the position of the bandage on her finger were exactly the same. Ha-jin saw that she couldn't fool him, so she had no choice but to use her ultimate trick. Ha-jin pulled Min-jun's hand and put their hands in his jacket pocket. Then she said that this was what it felt like to be lovers. She even pretended to be shy and asked him if he wouldn't mind. Min-jun was passionately in love, so he just forgot about the bandage. Ha-jin took the opportunity to change the subject and asked Min-jun what he wanted to do next. He said that he would fulfill any request she made, so Ha-jin got to be a boss for once. She enjoyed the cup of coffee that Min-jun made. Min-jun didn't expect her request to be so easy, but he was also a bit suspicious because these were the usual things a boss like him would do. Ha-jin could only explain that even so, she still enjoyed the feeling of being a boss. Hearing her say that, he suddenly had a good idea. Min-jun decided to take Ha-jin to the company so she could sit in his office as his boss for once. At this moment, Ha-jin was extremely panicked. If she met someone she knew at the company, she would be exposed right away, so she could only find an excuse not to go there. However, a cough from Min-jun made Ha-jin stop. The occupational disease of a secretary made Ha-jin unable to help but care about Min-jun. Min-jun said it was probably because of the rain earlier. Ha-jin couldn't bear to let him wear wet clothes, so she could only risk going up. In her heart, she silently prayed that she would absolutely not meet anyone she knew. Seeing her fumbling with her hands and feet, he didn't think much of it. He just felt that she was cute. After being hinted at in all sorts of ways by Ha-jin, Min-jun quickly found spare clothes. Later, Min-jun told Ha-jin to come sit in his seat. Although Ha-jin often came and went to this office, this was the first time she sat in his seat. Min-jun's care and attention made Ha-jin a little angry. Because of all this, Ha-jin had to use the identity of Veronica to enjoy it. Just thinking about how he would treat another girl like this made her unable to hold back her jealousy. Ha-jin also did not expect that one day she would be jealous of herself. Later, Min-jun asked Ha-jin what attracted her to that man that made her heartlessly reject him. Min-jun did not know that the man he admired was himself. Later, the two went to the movies at night. Unexpectedly, at the end, they discovered that Dae-ju and the real Veronica were also there. Min-jun had prosopagnosia syndrome and did not recognize them. In order to not let his identity be revealed, Ha-jin hurriedly told Min-jun to go out first. Later, Ha-jin also admitted to Dae-ju. She begged him not to reveal the truth because the relationship between her and Min-jun only had one last hour left. She wanted to cherish the remaining time well. In the blink of an eye, the 12-hour date had officially entered its final 10 minutes. Ha-jin asked Min-jun if there was anything he really wanted to do, and she would try to do it. Min-jun frankly said that he wanted a kiss before they parted. Ha-jin was very surprised by Min-jun's straightforwardness. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer. Min-jun saw her awkward expression and guessed that she definitely wouldn't agree. Seeing that the 10 hours had passed, Min-jun felt that these 12 hours were happier than any time he had ever experienced before. Even though he was very sad, he had to keep his promise to break up with her. At this moment, Ha-jin agreed to his request. Luckily, this was just a goodbye kiss before their relationship ended. If there are no surprises later, Ha-jin will no longer need to pretend to be Veronica. It's just that Minjun is miserable the next day. He's always in a state of heartbreak. Ha-jin feels guilty, so today, she specially prepared an attractive breakfast for Minjun, but he's not interested at all. He told her to go out to work and not worry about him. However, Ha-jin had only gone out to fix the computer for a bit. When she came back, Minjun said that he was about to get off work. He also told her to cancel all her schedules for today. Because she was worried, Ha-jin secretly followed behind him. In order not to be recognized, she deliberately took off her red jacket. Later, Minjun went to the convenience store where he had coffee with Veronica yesterday. It was clearly the same type of coffee, but today, because she wasn't there, his coffee became more bitter. The image of him watching a movie with Veronica was still clear in his eyes. The laughter of the two of them seemed to still linger in his ears. When he woke up, he realized that watching a movie alone was really cold. Ha-jin didn't dare to comfort him. She could only sit beside him and silently keep him company. Suddenly, she discovered that he hadn't eaten anything since morning, so she pretended to be a passerby and sat beside him. She took out a small piece of bread from her bag. She was afraid that he would be embarrassed to eat in front of her, so she ran to the opposite side. Minjun felt that this girl was quite strange. Although he didn't want to eat, he still reluctantly ate. While eating the bread, he remembered that he had only had a cup of coffee since morning. Later, he called Ha-jin to ask where she was. At this time, Ha-jin was sitting across from him. Ha-jin panicked and lied that she was at home. It turned out that Minjun suddenly wanted to eat the food she cooked, so he asked her to cook him a meal. Ha-jin didn't dare to refuse, so she told Minjun to take it slow. After hanging up, she ran home at lightning speed. When Minjun arrived, he brought Ha-jin a bouquet of flowers. This was also the first time in her life that she received flowers, because yesterday, thief broke into Ha-jin's house, so her brother was slightly injured while protecting the computer. Now Ha-jin's brother is in the hospital, so it's the right time for Ha-jin and Minjun to create a world of two. Minjun had just said he wasn't in the mood to eat, but now he ate Ha-jin's cooking like he was starving. Although it was just white rice and kimchi, Minjun felt that it was more delicious than the big restaurant outside. By the time Minjun left, it was already dark. He asked Ha-jin if she needed someone to stay by her side today. After Minjun asked, he felt that he was a bit strange. He was embarrassed and could only leave in a hurry. Before going to bed, Ha-jin went out to take out the trash. She also conveniently called her brother to ask if he needed her to come. At that time, her brother was happily playing with the nurses. He told her not to come and ruin the atmosphere. Ha-jin said that she was a bit scared to stay home alone. Unexpectedly, when Ha-jin turned around, Minjun was already behind her. Ha-jin asked if he hadn't left yet. Minjun was embarrassed to admit that he had been seen. He made an excuse saying that it had been a long time since he had come here to eat snacks. He felt that the atmosphere here was good, so he stayed for a while. It was Minjun's first time staying overnight at his secretary's house. His 1.9-meter tall body was wearing clothes that didn't fit him. He even volunteered to stay in this tiny house. Actually, Minjun was worried that Ha-jin wouldn't be safe alone because her house had just been robbed, but in reality, he had just had a broken heart and wanted to find comfort. Minjun said that he really wanted to call Veronica all day. Even now, he really wanted to, but he had agreed that after they broke up, he wouldn't bother her anymore. So Ha-jin had to hold his hand tightly so that he couldn't do anything. Minjun didn't know that after he finished speaking, Ha-jin felt extremely guilty because the girl he couldn't forget was actually her pretending. Ha-jin didn't feel any better than Minjun, so she also told him to hold her hand tightly because she actually had a guy that she kept missing. She was also missing him all day, but they said that if they had to forget, they had to keep their word. So Ha-jin and Minjun tried together. Hearing Ha-jin say that, Minjun felt much more comfortable. He also comforted her that he would hold her hand tightly. She must have coaxed that guy to sleep before. He also wanted to have a good sleep tonight, so could she coax him too? Although Ha-jin felt a little awkward, she still agreed. She told him to lie down. Minjun looked very pleased. His mood immediately improved. He quickly lay down next to her. He even insisted on holding her hand. Ha-jin had never really put a boy to sleep before, so she could only imitate her mother's way of lulling her to sleep when she was little. She patted him and sang some nursery rhymes. Both of them slept very well and slept straight through until morning. When they woke up, it was already 9 a.m. The next day, the two of them quickly got up and found that they were still holding hands. Ha-jin quickly called the driver to pick up Minjun. Minjun quickly went to the bathroom. When he opened the closet to get a towel, he found a very familiar pair of earrings. These earrings were exactly the same as the pair Veronica wore when they met him. Just when he was doubting, Ha-jin's call interrupted his thoughts. Minjun unconsciously put the earrings in his pocket. It turned out that Ha-jin found a knife under the cabinet. The two of them guessed that this must have been left by the thief. This knife was not only similar to the knife that Minjun's driver held on the night Minjun hit him, the person who attacked Minjun before also held an identical knife. wife. This made Minjun suspicious of the driver. It was just that he was in a hurry to attend the funeral, and after his head injury, he had developed prosopagnosia, so he couldn't do anything for the time being. Because Minjun left a bit late, he hadn't had time to change into his funeral clothes. So Minjun asked Ha-jin to bring them. When Ha-jin opened the dust bag of her clothes, she discovered that the zipper was stuck, so Minjun came to help her. The distance between the two of them was closer than ever. This made Minjun, who was face blind, see other people's faces clearly. It's just that he didn't understand why he couldn't see her face clearly when he was with Veronica. But why did his blood pressure rise whenever he was with Ha-jin? Moreover, this time Minjun could see other people's faces clearly. The time it took him to see faces clearly was also longer than before. He accidentally saw a figure that looked very similar to the person who attacked him that day. So he hurriedly chased after this one because he wanted to see the face of this one clearly. As a result, when he ran to the gate, a girl blocked his way. It turned out that the real Veronica had appeared just when Minjun's prosopagnosia had temporarily recovered. The person who had been dating Minjun was the fake Veronica, obviously completely different from the person who claimed to be Veronica. Veronica's words, when they first met, made Minjun even more certain that this person was a scammer. Veronica heard that someone said she was a fake, so of course she was very angry. She started to continuously explain and prove her identity. But Minjun was in a hurry to chase after the person who almost killed him, so he told her to stay here and wait for him. As a result, Minjun almost got hit by a car while crossing the street. Because he was so scared, he couldn't see the other person's face clearly. The other person had already left. When he turned back to find Veronica, she was no longer there. Ha-jin saw that Minjun hadn't returned yet, so she ran out to look for him. Minjun asked Ha-jin if she had seen a very beautiful girl, and on her head she was wearing a strange hat that looked like a curtain. Ha-jin knew that the matter was about to be exposed, so she hurriedly pulled Minjun away. Ha-jin said that the other girl had been seen through by him as a fake and had probably left long ago. But Minjun wanted to tell Veronica that someone was impersonating her. Before Ha-jin could stop Minjun, he called Veronica. So Ha-jin used the excuse of hygiene to answer Minjun's call. Coincidentally, Ha-jin bumped into Veronica there. Veronica had indeed asked Ha-jin to help her resolve her relationship with Minjun before, but she didn't know that Ha-jin had done so many unnecessary things. Ha-jin had also told Veronica the whole process. Her initial motive was simply curiosity. She wanted to see what kind of treatment she would get when she became the heir to the Veronica group. Later, she didn't anticipate everything and made a mistake. She dated the young director as a lover. After listening to Ha-jin's story, Veronica seemed to understand why the two mothers thought she and Minjun were dating smoothly. Ha-jin also promised Veronica that she would tell Minjun everything tomorrow. Ha-jin also willingly accepted all punishments. But Veronica told Ha-jin to come to the office to find her. Tonight, Veronica would think carefully about how to punish Ha-jin. After saying that, Veronica went out with Dae-ju. At this time, Veronica's mother was pulling Minjun's mother to chat. She looked at Minjun like a mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law. When she heard Minjun say that he and Veronica had broken up, she wished she could go back and punish her daughter. Mrs. Park also encouraged Minjun not to give up easily. Early the next morning, while Veronica was still sleeping, her mother suddenly came to wake her up. Her mother told her that she had to attend her and Minjun's wedding on the 20th. Her mother would go print the invitations first. Veronica hurriedly pulled her mother back. She hoped that her mother could give her another month. After all, she didn't date anyone for more than a week. At most, it wouldn't be more than a month. By then, she would know if Dae-ju had changed for her. Veronica's mother could only agree. Veronica then took Ha-jin to the mall to buy her a bunch of clothes and shoes. Veronica wanted Ha-jin to dress as similar to her as possible because she wanted Ha-jin to continue pretending to be her for a month during this time. That way, Veronica could focus on dating Dae-ju. Ha-jin of course did not agree. It was very difficult for her to leave that relationship. Veronica said that if Ha-jin did not agree, then on the 20th of next month, she would have to hold Minjun's hand and walk down the aisle. So Veronica begged Ha-jin to wait a month before breaking up with him. At this time, the two of them did not notice Minjun on the opposite side. But because he had severe prosopagnosia, he did not realize that the Veronica he liked was actually his secretary pretending to be her. His mother at home was helping him with the laundry when she discovered the earrings. His mother also very frankly told him that the pair of earrings was fake. But not only did Minjun not suspect that Veronica was actually Ha-jin in disguise, he even felt heartbroken that his secretary had to wear fake jewelry. He immediately went to the department store and bought her a real pair that looked exactly the same. Because Minjun wanted to return the earrings to their original place, he used the excuse of wanting to go with Ha-jin to pick up her brother as a reason to visit her house. Previously, Ha-jin's brother had heard his sister complain about how her boss kept making her work overtime, so he took this opportunity to get revenge for his sister. It was clear that he could walk just fine, but he insisted that Minjun carry him on back. Ha-jin felt very sorry, so she told Minjun to go home early and rest. Since he had already come this far, of course Minjun couldn't let his effort go to waste. So he used the excuse of needing the restroom and returned the real earrings back to their original spot. When Daeju found out that Minjun came back late today because of this, he asked Minjun why he cared whether his secretary wore real or fake jewelry. Daeju had long felt that his friend was acting strangely. Daeju said that although Minjun claimed to like that other girl, his eyes were always on Ha-jin. After hearing Daeju say that, Minjun also felt confused about why he always experienced high blood pressure whenever he was with Ha-jin. Daeju said it was already very obvious. He advised Minjun to give up on that other girl and date Ha-jin instead, but Minjun immediately denied it. When Daeju heard Minjun say the name Veronica, he was extremely shocked. He kept asking again to confirm it with Minjun. When he found out that they had even kissed, he was even more devastated. The girl who kept saying she liked him actually cheated him. Daeju immediately called to cancel his date with Veronica. Veronica at this time had no idea what was going on. In the end, Daeju also warned Minjun that he had to choose one of the two, Veronica or Ha-jin. He couldn't want both at the same time. Daeju gave Minjun one day to think carefully about who he truly liked. Tonight would be the time to give the answer. When he heard that Minjun liked both women, Daeju didn't know what else to say. It wasn't like he was asking his friend whether he liked his dad or his mom more. Why would he say something so unreasonable, like liking two people at the same time? Minjun was also very frustrated. He didn't know why he came to such a conclusion either, but the truth was just like that. When he saw Veronica, Minjun would be reminded of Ha-jin. He increasingly felt that the two were very similar, especially their voices. Daeju was very disappointed in Minjun. Minjun didn't explain anything further because he also found himself despicable. Early the next morning, Minjun went to see Dr. Gu to get an X-ray. He wanted to see if there was something wrong with his brain. Dr. Gu told him that he didn't need to struggle to figure out who was in his heart, but should recall his initial feelings. Later, he would know how to choose. Although Minjun still didn't fully understand what Dr. Gu meant, he did receive some hints. In the evening, when he returned home, Minjun's mother saw that he looked deep in thought and assumed he and Veronica had quarreled. So she told him he should be more understanding. If Veronica was upset, he shouldn't ignore her, but should find a way to comfort her. His mother's words gave Minjun a new perspective. He decided to go see Veronica. If she was still willing to continue seeing him, then he would choose her. At that time, Ha-jin was calling Veronica. When she saw Minjun at the reception desk, Veronica asked Ha-jin why he was there. After Ha-jin found out, she was very panicked, but Veronica was very calm. Veronica told Ha-jin to come quickly so they could perform a good play together. Minjun carefully sat in Veronica's office waiting for her. Not long after, Veronica played by Ha-jin appeared. The real Veronica had already changed into the secretary's outfit. Minjun had prosopagnosia, so he didn't suspect anything. But this was the first time Ha-jin pretended to be Veronica in front of her. She was somewhat nervous. Originally, Ha-jin wanted Veronica to stay away, but Veronica sat across from them herself. She looked more like a boss than an employee. Later, Veronica ate fruit while drinking coffee. She even adjusted her posture to prepare to watch Ha-jin's performance. Although he felt a bit awkward, Minjun could only speak briefly. The reason Veronica helped so enthusiastically was because she wanted Ha-jin to be able to date Minjun properly under her identity, so that her hot-tempered mother would no longer bother her. She would then have enough time to go on dates with Daeju. She said that last time when her director Veronica proposed breaking up, it was just out of anger. In fact, every day Veronica waited for Minjun's call. Veronica had even prepared 2 tickets to a performance. Ha-jin couldn't take it anymore, so she pulled Minjun outside to talk. Minjun asked if what the secretary said earlier was true, because Ha-jin had promised Veronica she would pretend to be her for 1 month. She followed along with his words and confirmed it. When he heard that Veronica would get back together with him, Minjun hesitated and even prepared to find an excuse to leave. If it were before, Minjun would have been ecstatic. Ha-jin pulled back Minjun, who was in a hurry to leave. She told him he had to give his answer right now. Minjun said he would give her an answer on the day of the performance. Later, he even pretended to answer a phone call from Ha-jin. He had no idea that she was standing right in front of him. Ha-jin thought to herself, since when did Minjun hire another secretary? Ha-jin also wondered why, after liking Veronica so much before, Minjun would reject her today. After that, to prevent feelings from developing, Minjun even gave Ha-jin some time off. However, on the very first day of her absence, Minjun couldn't help but miss her. Minjun no longer had the mood to work, but also couldn't think of a reason to go see her. And as a result, not long after, he showed up at Ha-jin's apartment complex. When he arrived, he regretted why his legs didn't listen to. Clearly, Minjun had granted Ha-jin leave, but in the end, he still went to find her. Ha-jin asked Minjun why he came to see her. Minjun hesitated for a long time, and then said that Ha-jin forgot to send him some document. Ha-jin Ha-jin looked very disappointed. She had thought he came because he missed her. Ha-jin said she seemed to know why he gave her time off, because Minjun liked Veronica, but something had happened between him and Ha-jin, so he felt guilty and wanted to avoid her. But actually, she wasn't as good as he imagined, so he didn't need to feel guilty. Regarding what happened that day, Ha-jin's words made Minjun feel even worse, so he begged her to forgive him. At the same time, he also said that he would quickly make a decision. Regarding the investigation into Minjun's driver, the police had also made progress. However, they didn't know that Minjun had prosopagnosia, so they couldn't understand why he dared to let someone who almost killed him become his driver. Minjun was not satisfied with what the police said. What Minjun cared about was that if the knife belonged to the criminal, then it meant the person who entered Ha-jin's house was also that man. After leaving the police station, Minjun went straight to Ha-jin's house. Minjun told Ha-jin that she had to pack her things and move out that very night. Ha-jin didn't understand anything. Only then did Minjun say that person who broke into her house was his driver. Ha-jin said that her brother had already gotten used to living there, so he wouldn't agree to move elsewhere. Moreover, she wouldn't leave her brother alone. Seeing that he couldn't convince Ha-jin, Minjun didn't insist anymore. But before leaving, he promised to have someone come and install security equipment. Sure enough, early the next morning, Minjun's people were at Ha-jin's house. These past few days, Minjun had managed to hold back from going to see Ha-jin. Because the day of the performance between Minjun and Veronica was approaching, he had planned to officially ask Veronica to date him today. Veronica, played by Ha-jin, also arrived at this time. It was just that her emotions were very complicated. The closer she got to Minjun, the more nervous Ha-jin became. Ha-jin felt sad when she thought about how, after tonight, he would officially be in a relationship with Veronica. So at the last moment, she chose to run away. Right after that, Ha-jin ran to find Veronica. Veronica said that she wasn't supposed to appear at the theater entrance right now. Ha-jin cried and said that she couldn't do it anymore. Her head also felt very uncomfortable, so she decided to tell everything. She could no longer continue to lie to Minjun. Seeing Ha-jin crying and begging, Veronica agreed with her. After that, Veronica and Ha-jin went to the theater to find Minjun. But on the way, a car accident occurred. Ha-jin and Veronica were both injured and were urgently taken to the hospital. The phone that had fallen in the car was also handed over to Veronica's secretary. Minjun was afraid something had happened to Veronica, so he kept calling. At that moment, the secretary told Minjun that Veronica had been in a car accident. The person accompanying them was also Secretary Jung, who had previously worked with them. At first, Veronica was injured and taken to the neurosurgery department. Ha-jin, who had an injury to her arm, was in the orthopedics department. Minjun stood at the two ends of the hallway, hesitating. He was unsure which direction to go. In his mind, he kept recalling images of his time with Ha-jin and Veronica. In the end, he followed Dr. Gu's advice to recall his initial feelings, so he ran toward the one he believed was the right choice. But she wasn't in the hospital room. Minjun had made the trip in vain. When he asked the nurse, he knew that she had just gone to the rooftop. Minjun quickly ran after her to look. Eventually, he spotted a familiar figure on the rooftop. Although Minjun had prosopagnosia, he was certain that person was Ha-jin. Ha-jin was very surprised to see Minjun had come looking for her. Minjun faced Ha-jin's question, but didn't give an answer because all of his answers were already in the action that followed. For the first time, Ha-jin felt such intense emotions from Minjun. It made the two of them feel a bit awkward. In the end, it was Minjun who broke the silence first. He explained to her that in the past, he really did like Veronica. But that night, when he wanted to kiss her, that was real too, because he liked two women at the same time. He felt very terrible about himself. But Minjun still believed it was right that he went to find Veronica first. Because Dr. Gu said to follow the initial feeling, and the one he initially liked really was her. But when he saw that she wasn't in the hospital room, he suddenly understood why he liked her at first. It was because she looked a lot like Ha-jin. The excited way she drank coffee in the convenience store was very similar to Ha-jin. That day, there was a moment when he caught a glimpse of her lips. Her smile as she looked at him also resembled Ha-jin a lot. Minjun mustered all his courage to speak out what was in his heart, but he couldn't see Ha-jin's expression. He also didn't know how she would react after hearing his confession. Moreover, she hadn't said anything until now. This made him even more anxious. Minjun could understand that Ha-jin needed some time before she could give him an answer. After all, just yesterday he had confidently told her that he couldn't forget Veronica. He could understand how confused Ha-jin must be feeling at this moment. Minjun told Ha-jin to go back and rest early, that this matter could be thought over slowly. After taking Ha-jin back to her hospital room, Minjun asked her whether her brother would be coming to stay with her tonight. Ha-jin said that if her brother were to come, it would probably be after another one-night, two-day trip. Moreover, her injury wasn't that serious. Minjun still couldn't feel at ease, so he decided to stay and help Ha-jin. It was the first time she had such intimate interaction interactions with Minjun, and it made Ha-jin feel very shy. But Minjun acted completely naturally. He even helped her wash her hands according to the 6-step hand-washing instructions on the wall. The friction between their palms made Ha-jin feel as if electricity was running through her. Ha-jin told Minjun that he didn't need to wash them that thoroughly, but Minjun ignored her words and helped her dry her hands. Then, Minjun took out a pen and drew a heart on Ha-jin's cast. Ha-jin didn't expect that Minjun had such a romantic side. This heart would later become proof exposing Ha-jin's lie. After Minjun left, Ha-jin told Veronica that Minjun had confessed to her. Of course, Veronica felt happy for Ha-jin, because that way, she herself could be with Dae-ju. It was just that from here on, they still had a difficult problem to solve. Veronica wanted to explain things clearly to her mother at home, while Ha-jin had to be honest with Minjun about pretending to be Veronica. At that moment, Veronica's mother and Minjun's mother were worried about the marriage between the two. They wanted to have dinner together that evening to push things forward a little, but they didn't tell the two about it and pretended that the two families ran into each other by chance. That way, Minjun and Veronica wouldn't be able to refuse. Veronica was worried that Ha-jin pretending to be her would be exposed, so she didn't dare say anything the whole time. Originally, Veronica wanted to send a message to inform Ha-jin, but her mother thought she was just playing with her phone, so she threw it away. At that moment, Veronica gave Minjun a plate of beef full of peanuts. Minjun recalled the first time he and Veronica met. At that time, she knew he was allergic to peanuts, but now she had forgotten. Minjun decided to endure the pain and eat the peanuts. He wanted to see if she would react. As a result, Veronica only cared about her phone. She didn't pay any attention to whether he was eating peanuts or not. Not long after, he felt very unwell and quickly ran to the bathroom. No one at the table noticed anything unusual. His mother even said he was being rude. Veronica's mother told her to quickly go in and check on him. At that time, Minjun was itching all over from the allergy. He heard Veronica's voice calling him, so he came out to meet her. Basically, Minjun had already determined that the person he went on the blind date with was not the woman in front of him. At the same time, Minjun received a phone call from someone claiming to be Veronica. Veronica knew the matter could no longer be hidden, but she didn't know how to explain everything to Minjun. Veronica, played by Ha-jin, still went to the park as planned. Minjun asked Ha-jin where she was right now. Minjun didn't expose Ha-jin over the phone because he wanted to see for himself who had been lying to him from beginning to end. While waiting for Minjun to arrive, Ha-jin kept practicing the confession she had written the night before. She was afraid that she would say something wrong later due to nervousness. Not long after, Ha-jin saw Minjun arriving. She kept encouraging herself not to be nervous, thinking that as long as she explained everything honestly, she would surely be forgiven. But Ha-jin didn't know what Minjun had just gone through. She also didn't notice the seriousness on his face. What she did notice was the red mark on his neck. She worriedly asked if he had eaten peanuts earlier. She immediately took the allergy medicine from her bag and gave it to him. At that moment, Minjun saw the heart he had drawn on Ha-jin's cast. In that moment, he finally knew who had pretended to be Veronica and deceived him from the beginning. Even though the evidence was clear, Minjun still couldn't bring himself to believe it. Even though Ha-jin tried to explain, he seemed unable to accept it. Ha-jin knew that Minjun was definitely very angry with her. She no longer had the right to make him stay. But before leaving, she didn't forget to put the allergy medicine into his jacket pocket. When Minjun got home, his mother scolded him for leaving without even saying hello. After all, Minjun was the son without a blood relation, so what she cared more about was whether the arranged marriage with the Park family would be ruined. She didn't care at all about what Minjun had gone through. At that moment, Minjun saw Veronica's umbrella. More accurately, it was the umbrella he had once shared with Ha-jin. It made him recall those sweet memories even more. While he still hadn't calmed down from everything, the police informed him that they suspected Dae-ju was an accomplice in the assassination attempt on him. Minjun could not believe that Dae-ju would do such a thing to him because at first, it was Dae-ju who recommended Eun Jung-soo to be his driver. Moreover, that night, a camera captured Dae-ju meeting Jung-soo. Although Dae-ju was his best friend since childhood, these coincidences inevitably made Minjun suspicious of Dae-ju. Dae-ju explained that that night he did not see Jung-soo's face clearly. Dae-ju met him only to borrow a phone. As for recommending him as a driver, it was purely because Dae-ju accidentally knew that Jung-soo was looking for a job. At the same time, Dae-ju saw that Minjun was short of a driver, so he recommended. Before going to the police station for questioning, Dae-ju gave Minjun a part of a file. This was the final contract that Dae-ju helped Minjun secure. It was also the card that gave Minjun an advantage in the vote for chairman of the board. Only then did Minjun realize he had truly blamed his friend wrongly. Minjun once again felt intensely powerless because he could not see other people's faces. Because he could not read Ha-jin's expressions, Minjun did not know she was deceiving him. Also, because he could not read Dae-ju's expression expressions, Minjun doubted the friend he trusted the most. Originally, Minjun thought Ha-jin was the only person who could help him, but now, the trust between them has shattered. Dr. Goose snapped Minjun hard. Although Ha-jin's secretary, pretending to be the blind date to deceive him, was wrong, now he knew the two girls he liked were actually the same person. Shouldn't he feel happy? Minjun came to see Dr. Gu to complain, and unexpectedly, he was scolded by the doctor. Minjun was a stepchild. Since childhood, he had never felt the warmth of a family. Because Ha-jin held an important place in Minjun's heart, he couldn't easily forgive her. Out of what he called pride, Minjun didn't even tell Daeju about his prosopagnosia syndrome. If this time, Minjun hadn't misunderstood Daeju, he probably wouldn't have planned to tell him about it. Because Minjun couldn't see faces or read others' expressions, he misunderstood his close friend. After being fired, Ha-jin spent the whole day lying at home. She lay on the bed feeling depressed. Veronica originally wanted to ask Ha-jin how Minjun's attitude was after knowing the truth. Unexpectedly, the next day, Minjun made Ha-jin unemployed as well. Veronica suggested that when one's mind is in chaos, it's better to go out and eat something delicious. She could buy some pretty but useless things. Then she could go watch a comedy movie. After laughing heartily, she would know what to do. Veronica also knew of Ha-jin's current appearance. She felt partly responsible, so she planned to meet Minjun. As soon as they met, Veronica said that he didn't know how miserable Ha-jin was now. All day she hid under the blanket crying. Veronica also said that Ha-jin's eyes were swollen. Veronica did this hoping to make Minjun feel sympathy, but the result was that he was not shaken at all. Veronica said that during that time, Ha-jin always wanted to be honest with him, but Veronica, in order to maintain a peaceful relationship with Daeju, had voted for him in the board meeting as a condition for Ha-jin. It was she who made Ha-jin pretend to be her to date him. Ha-jin agreed to Veronica's proposal because she liked him too much. Veronica also said that I understood your anger and that you had the right to decide whether to forgive or not. But there is one thing he must understand clearly. That is when he confessed. Ha-jin was very happy. Ha-jin smiled and said that person he liked was her, not Veronica. When Daeju knew that Ha-jin was fired, he went to find Minjun. Daeju told Minjun about catching Ha-jin impersonating Veronica to go to the movies with Minjun. That day at the cinema, Ha-jin cried and said that she wanted to have one last proper date with him. After hearing Daeju's words, Minjun was a little shaken, but all this time, he pretended not to care. Daeju continued to say that liking someone is like that. Even if disappointed or hurt, one is still willing to choose forgiveness. After going home and washing up, Minjun found that his peanut allergy was almost gone. That night, although Ha-jin was severely scolded by him, she still firmly put allergy medicine into his shirt pocket. In Minjun's heart, he knew Ha-jin truly cared about him. Plus, with Daeju and Veronica advising together, half of Minjun's anger had already disappeared. But when he opened his phone, Minjun did not see any message from Ha-jin. His proud character flared up again. Because of the car accident, Ha-jin's arm was injured. After many days of rest, she had improved, so she planned to go to the hospital to remove the cast. Before leaving the hospital, Ha-jin discovered Minjun was also there. She happily intended to greet him, but he did not recognize her when she was not wearing the red coat. Ha-jin painfully watched his back. Feeling gloomy, Ha-jin followed Veronica's advice. She planned to eat a really good meal, but as a person who usually loved food, she found it tasteless at this moment. So Ha-jin decided to use the ticket Veronica gave her to go watch a comedy. As a result, she discovered that her younger sister, who was supposed to be studying abroad, was actually here. Ha-jin didn't expect that she had worked hard to earn money for her sister's education, only for her sister to lie like that. The younger sister explained that because the brother and older sister had placed too high expectations on her, she didn't dare to tell them that she had failed the exam. Ha-jin was extremely angry and believed that avoidance was even worse than lying. Since they were family, there was nothing to hide. While scolding her sister, Ha-jin seemed to realize something. Tomorrow was the day Minjun would attend the board meeting. If she liked him, she should face it with him. So Ha-jin had to find Minjun to talk to him. When Minjun saw Ha-jin appear at the company, he was very excited inside, but chose to pretend to be cold. The reason Ha-jin dared to return to the company was because she wanted to attend the board meeting with him tomorrow. After that, she could leave with peace of mind. She knew how important this board meeting was to Minjun. She also knew how difficult it was for someone with prosopagnosia like him to fight alone. While Minjun was making coffee, she sincerely apologized to him. Her sincere apology did not earn his forgiveness. He didn't even want her to stay for a single day. But if Ha-jin was determined, she would not leave just like that. Minjun had just said harsh words, but when he saw Ha-jin sitting alone in front of the company gate, he felt heartbroken. Just as he was hesitating whether to go out and persuade her to go home, he suddenly received a phone call. After finishing the call, he immediately looked toward Ha-jin. When he found she was no longer there, a bit of disappointment appeared on his face. After returning home, he still kept calling the board of directors. The preparations were almost finished. The last difficult real problem was that tomorrow he had to recognize the board members. He remembered that there used to be a notebook that recorded the physical features of the board members. That notebook was arranged late at night by Ha-jin together with him, but now he couldn't find it anymore. Min-jun guessed that maybe he left it at the company. After rushing to the company, he saw that Ha-jin was still there. When he arrived at the office, Min-jun walked past where Ha-jin was sitting. He saw her red coat. Later, he noticed there was a letter clipped on the desk. After reading the letter, Min-jun realized that maybe he had been a bit too harsh on Ha-jin. Ha-jin thought Min-jun needed help, so he came to find her. Min-jun asked for an excuse about where the notebook was. After Ha-jin told him the exact location, Min-jun put the red coat back into Ha-jin's hands. Then Min-jun left, but in his heart he didn't really want to go, so he deliberately walked very slowly, waiting for Ha-jin to catch up. As expected, Ha-jin ran after him and asked if he needed her help to find it. Min-jun turned arrogantly and asked Ha-jin if she would leave immediately after working tomorrow. Ha-jin quickly nodded and said that if he agreed, she guaranteed she could do it. Min-jun's uncle accidentally knew about Min-jun's illness, so he deliberately told the board members to wear the same style of pants. They also kept an expressionless face and didn't talk. This way, they could make Min-jun reveal his illness in front of everyone. From that, he would lose the qualification to apply for the position of chairman of the board. But before the meeting, Ha-jin had made an agreement with Min-jun that if an unexpected situation occurred, he could send her a signal. Seeing Min-jun wink, Ha-jin knew he was in trouble. Therefore, Ha-jin hurriedly called Dae-ju for help. At that moment, Min-jun's uncle had started to make things difficult for him. Uncle Min-jun asked if he could recognize Mr. Park. Seeing Min-jun not responding for a long time, the uncle sitting beside him sneered. Unexpectedly, Min-jun was able to point it out accurately. Seeing that he couldn't make things hard for Min-jun, the uncle then publicly revealed Min-jun's medical records. Everyone began to talk incessantly. After hearing Min-jun admit it, his uncle breathed a sigh of relief. The uncle believed that with this illness, Min-jun could not bear the responsibility and had no right to take on the position of chairman of the board. Min-jun apologized for not telling the board members about his illness, but he also disagreed that having the illness meant losing the right to be chairman of the board. Although Min-jun's words were both reasonable and sensible, the members who had been supporting him all chose to give up. Thus, the victory surely belonged to the evil uncle. In the end, Min-jun only received 5 votes. Because one person on Min-jun's side abstained, he finally received only 4 votes. At the crucial moment, Dae-ju appeared. One of his votes was for Min-jun. After the meeting, Min-jun thanked Dae-ju. Dae-ju said the person he should thank was Ha-jin. When Min-jun returned to the office, Ha-jin had finished packing her things. Although Ha-jin had not yet seen Min-jun succeed in becoming chairman of the board, ending like this was still considered a new opportunity. Ha-jin's mission was also completed as promised before. Today was also the last day Ha-jin worked as Min-jun's secretary. Before leaving, she had arranged his schedule for the month. She apologized once again for deceiving him. She was also very grateful that he had accepted her as his secretary. The next day, when Min-jun went to work and found Ha-jin's position vacant, he felt very unfamiliar. Suddenly, a feeling of love surged into his heart, so he had no mood to work. After that, Min-jun called his close friend to invite him to eat. Coincidentally, Dae-ju was discussing important matters with Veronica at that time. Last time, it was interrupted by Ha-jin. This time, it was Min-jun's turn. Veronica felt certain that in her past life, she owed these two people. She didn't want Min-jun to take away her man, so she grabbed Dae-ju's phone. She told Min-jun to invite Ha-jin to eat, so Min-jun hurried to the restaurant he had reserved. Actually, this was also Min-jun's excuse. Meet Ha-jin. Ha-jin's younger sister lied that she went abroad to study, but actually she was interning at Veronica's company. After finding out, Ha-jin forced her to quit to continue studying. Veronica originally wanted to use her power to advise the employee's family, but did not expect the employee's older sister to be Ha-jin. Ha-jin firmly refused, so Veronica gave her 2 tickets to watch a performance of her younger sister. After that, Ha-jin could make a decision to save face for her younger sister. Ha-jin and her brother deliberately wore nicer clothes. Only Ha-jin still wore that red coat out of habit. Before the opening time, Min-jun had already arrived at the theater early to wait for Ha-jin to appear. Finally, he was able to wait for her. Min-jun was about to greet Ha-jin when he noticed she was holding hands with another man. Because of his prosopagnosia syndrome, he did not recognize that the other person was Ha-jin's older brother. From the moment they sat down, Min-jun began to feel jealous. He stared at them intently. Since her brother had poor eyesight, Ha-jin quietly narrated the play's content to him. But in Min-jun's eyes, their actions looked like lovers whispering to each other. Ha-jin's brother was visiting such places for the first time and was a bit nervous, so he couldn't help but hold his sister's hand. This action made Min-jun so jealous that he became angry. Later, Ha-jin felt that whispering like this was impolite, so they left before the play was over. Min-jun chased after them outside, scolding non-stop. Min-jun thought that normally when Ha-jin went out with him, she wore flat shoes, but today she wore high heels and a beautiful floral dress. Moreover, why did the two have to link arms? Didn't they feel hot? Later, Ha-jin and her brother went to a flower shop to buy a bouquet for their younger sister. Min-jun thought the man was buying flowers for Ha-jin. Seeing their intimate actions, Min-jun's jealousy peaked. At that moment, the restaurant Min-jun had booked earlier called. When Min-jun turned around, he found Ha-jin had disappeared, so he could only go to the restaurant alone. But the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Why could Ha-jin do the things she used to do with Min-jun so easily with another man now? At that time, Ha-jin was standing in front of the theater, waiting for her younger sister. When she received Min-jun's call, she was both happy and scared. Min-jun said he would send her the restaurant address. He asked if she could come now. Ha-jin was a little embarrassed and said she could only come a little later. After hanging up, Ha-jin's mind was actually filled with only Min-jun. So as soon as her younger sister left, she hurriedly gave her flowers, and then without waiting, she went to find Min-jun. Seeing Ha-jin arrive, Min-jun immediately, excitedly ran out to greet her. He originally wanted to find an excuse to invite her to have a farewell meal, but in the end, he decided to speak his true feelings. So after expressing everything they thought, the two of them were finally together. After clearly defining their relationship, they felt a little shy. Ha-jin was still immersed in the sweetness from yesterday, the sweetness that just thinking about it made her smile aloud. The man Ha-jin missed all morning suddenly appeared at her house. Ha-jin thought Min-jun came to pick her up, so she quickly grabbed her bag to get ready for work. But Min-jun pulled her back and asked if she looked like she was dressed for work. Today was time for them to date together. Before, they had planned to watch a performance, but in the end, they couldn't. So Min-jun asked Ha-jin if she wanted to go watch it today. Hearing this, Ha-jin started to book tickets out of habit, but Min-jun had already booked them. Out of professional habit, Ha-jin opened the car's back door. The two of them fumbled around for a while and still hadn't left. As a result, the trip turned into a noisy outing for 4 people. Although Ha-jin was not very comfortable, there was no other way. Worried that Min-jun would object, she scolded her brother and younger sister to be quiet, but Min-jun felt it was okay. After arriving at the beach, Min-jun and Ha-jin's older brother played together happily, to the point that they left Ha-jin behind. Ha-jin showed signs of sulking. For dinner, Min-jun and Ha-jin ate together with her older brother and younger sister. Because they drank alcohol and could not drive, they rented a nearby homestay to stay for one night. It was Min-jun's first time staying overnight in a group like this, so he was very uncomfortable. But seeing the whole family sleeping soundly like that, he suddenly felt a kind of happiness he had never experienced before. Min-jun couldn't sleep, so he could only take a walk alone by the sea. Perhaps the scene from earlier moved him. He suddenly wanted to call and talk with his mother. He wanted to apologize for never telling her about his prosopagnosia syndrome. Although Mrs. Sim told her son not to think about using his illness to make her pity him, she still advised him to try his best to get the position of chairman of the board. In fact, Mrs. Sim still cared deeply for this non-biological son, but she had never expressed her love before. Therefore, she didn't know how to respond at that moment. When Min-jun hung up, Ha-jin had already gone outside. The scene was very suitable for a new couple to express their feelings. Since Min-jun started dating, he obviously was not as focused on work as before. Just after having lunch, Min-jun already made plans to have dinner with Ha-jin. However, their different identities meant there would surely be some conflicts. Previously, Min-jun was attacked because there was a serious conflict between the company's leadership and its subordinates. Jung-soo also apologized to Min-jun for his actions. Jung-soo did not intend to hurt Min-jun. Jung-soo used to be the driver for Min-jun's uncle and was often scolded. One time while working, Jung-soo was kicked by Min-jun's uncle and had a traffic accident. But because Jung-soo was only a temporary contract worker, the company did not handle his injury. After knowing this truth, Min-jun's mood was not good. Just because of an unrelated matter, he became the victim, and because of that injury, he developed prosopagnosia, which might never be cured in his lifetime. Therefore, Min-jun told Ha-jin not to try to persuade him. To resolve this conflict, Min-jun thought of many ways. In the end, he could only talk to his uncle. Min-jun used withdrawing from the chairman election as a condition. At the same time, his uncle had to increase benefits for temporary contract employees. Min-jun was always an obstacle in his uncle's eyes, so of course he agreed to this deal. But before his uncle could rejoice about Min-jun withdrawing from the chairman election, Min-jun said he had asked Dae-ju to participate instead. Later, with Min-jun's support, Dae-ju was successfully chosen as chairman of the board. Apart from Veronica, the person happiest for Dae-ju was Min-jun. Seeing Min-jun so happy, Ha-jin was also glad. Although she did not fully understand their decision, what she could do was silently support Min-jun. Actually, Dae-ju did not want to monopolize this position forever. Dae-ju and Min-jun agreed that in 3 years, Dae-ju would give the position back to Min-jun. During these 3 years, Dae-ju would help his friend prepare everything. After Min-jun took the chairman position, he would be able to proceed smoothly. After the inauguration ceremony ended, they gathered at Veronica's office office. To congratulate Daeju, Veronica specially prepared a cake for him. Later, Veronica asked Secretary Ha Jin to go downstairs and get champagne. At that moment, Veronica remembered that Ha Jin had already resigned. Ha Jin voluntarily wanted to stand up and get it. As a result, Ha Jin was pulled back by Minjun. Just as Minjun stood up, he was pulled back by Daeju. Veronica did not expect that in the end she still had to go and get it herself. The root cause of this was Ha Jin and no one else. Veronica, to vent her anger, lightly pushed Ha Jin a little. As a result, Ha Jin's red coat was damaged. Although she tried very hard to sew it back, it could not be restored to its original state. Minjun originally wanted Ha Jin to just throw it away, but Ha Jin was afraid that if she did not wear that coat, he would not be able to recognize her. Therefore, she firmly refused to throw it away. Later, Minjun took Ha Jin to buy a similar one, but no matter how many she tried on, he still could not recognize her. Afterwards, Minjun went to the hospital to ask Dr. Gu for help. Dr. Gu suggested Minjun find a new item that could help him recognize Ha Jin. Although at first Minjun would not recognize her, over time he definitely would. Thanks to her younger sister, Ha Jin was able to wear such a beautiful ceremonial outfit for the first time, but she felt it did not look like a costume prop but rather very expensive. At this moment, Ha Jin knew that her sister got the outfit from the office. Her sister's boss was Veronica. Coincidentally, Minjun also arrived at that moment. Seeing him, Ha Jin was shy and quickly turned away. She even blamed her older brother for not knowing how to lock the door properly. Ha Jin's younger sister stood beside her and knew just when to call Minjun brother-in-law. It turned out that Minjun went out for a walk because he was in a bad mood. Ha Jin's younger sister told Minjun to stay over tonight. Just as Ha Jin was about to take off the outfit, her older brother stopped her. He said they had not taken a single photo yet. Coincidentally, Minjun arrived so they could ask him to take a photo for them. After Minjun helped them take photos, seeing how beautiful Ha Jin was, he also wanted to take a photo with her. When Mrs. Sim knew that Minjun did not come home to sleep last night, she was actually a little worried. Although she showed anger about Minjun giving up the chairman position, she was really just worried about him. When Minjun heard his mother instruct the new housekeeper to prepare food without peanuts because her son was allergic to peanuts, he knew his mother had forgiven him. Since Ha Jin's red coat was burned, they had always been looking for something to replace it. Minjun thought for a long time and finally decided that nothing was more suitable than a ring. Minjun also knew this proposal was a bit sudden, so he did not ask Ha Jin to agree immediately. If one day he saw Ha Jin wear this ring, it would mean she had accepted his proposal. Later, Minjun often paid attention to Ha Jin's hand. Since Daeju became chairman of the board, Minjun had much less work. Whenever he was free, he would go on dates with Ha Jin. Today, he excitedly went to the restaurant to meet Ha Jin. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the elevator, an accident happened. At this time, Ha Jin did not know anything and was still busy preparing in the restaurant. The reason she still had not worn the ring was because she wanted him to propose again. Then, she would ask him to put the ring on her hand. But it was already quite late past the appointment time, and Minjun still had not arrived. Ha Jin called him, but he did not answer. She began to worry a little. She was afraid something unexpected had happened, so she hurried to look for him. At this moment, Minjun was stuck in the elevator. He called for help, but there was no phone signal. Luckily, he pressed the emergency button in time. The staff who received the signal hurried to rescue Minjun. Knowing that Ha Jin was waiting for him, he was very hurried. But fortunately, soon after the elevator doors opened, whether it was because he was too frightened earlier or not, Minjun was now able to clearly see faces. He had always thought it was just an illusion, but after confirming several times, he knew he really could see. Minjun thought to himself, could it be that his prosopagnosia syndrome was simply cured? But now Minjun had something more important to do, which was that he had to immediately run to meet Ha Jin. Finally, he arranged to meet her on the company rooftop. This time, he could clearly see the face of the girl he loved. Ha Jin did not understand what was happening until Minjun kissed her several times before she realized what had occurred. The movie ends here. Thank you all for your attention and support. Goodbye, and see you again.